There exists an ancient wisdom, whispered through the centuries, shrouded in mystery and power, a key to unlocking the deepest secrets of the universe and of existence itself. This is Hermeticism, a tradition rooted in legends and mystical figures, whose teachings have influenced civilizations, philosophies, and all major esoteric currents of the West. If you feel the call of the unknown, if you seek to understand the invisible laws that govern reality, then prepare yourself for a profound journey. Hermeticism is not a religion in the conventional sense, with rigid dogmas and an ecclesiastical structure. It is, rather, a body of knowledge, a perennial philosophy, a path of self-discovery and transmutation based on universal principles. Its origin is often attributed to a legendary and semi-divine figure, Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great. Hermes, legend holds that he was a sage, a prophet, a scribe of the gods, a synthesis of Thoth, the Egyptian god of knowledge, writing and magic, and Hermes, the Greek messenger of the gods, patron of commerce, eloquence and secrets. This mythical fusion points to the syncretic and universalist nature of Hermeticism from its roots. The most important texts associated with Hermes Trismegistus are the Corpus Hermeticum and the Emerald Tablet. The Corpus Hermeticum is a collection of philosophical and theological dialogues that explore the nature of God, the cosmos, the human mind, and the path to salvation or enlightenment. Written in Greek, their wisdom seems to have deep roots in Egyptian culture. The Emerald Tablet, on the other hand, is a much shorter and more enigmatic text, considered by many alchemists and occultists as the essence of Hermetic philosophy, containing the key to the great work, both the transmutation of base metals into gold and the spiritual transformation of the human being. But what makes Hermeticism so captivating and at the same time so hidden? The word occult simply means hidden. Hermeticism has always been an esoteric tradition, meaning it was intended for an inner circle of initiates, those who were ready to receive and comprehend its deepest teachings. This is not due to elitism, but because this wisdom requires a certain level of spiritual and intellectual maturity to be absorbed and practiced safely and effectively. Knowledge, when misunderstood or applied without wisdom, can be dangerous. Think of electricity. In the hands of a trained electrician, it lights up cities. In the hands of someone ignorant, it can be fatal. So it is with Hermetic wisdom. At the heart of modern Hermeticism, popularized by the book The Kybalion, published anonymously by 3 initiates in the early 20th century, are 7 universal principles. These principles are not mere philosophical concepts. They are fundamental laws that govern all planes of existence, physical, mental, and spiritual. Understanding and applying them is the path to mastery, to becoming a conscious operator of reality rather than a mere plaything of circumstances. Let us dive into each of them, as they are the backbone of all Hermetic practice. The first principle is the principle of mentalism. It states, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." This is perhaps the most revolutionary and fundamental idea of Hermeticism. It means that everything in the universe, from the smallest subatomic particle to the largest galaxy, from our most intimate emotions to the laws of physics, is a creation of the mind of the all. The all, the absolute, God, the primordial source, call it what you will, is not only the cause of the universe, it is the mind in which the universe exists. And most importantly for us as individuals, our own mind is a facet, a spark of that universal mind. Our thoughts, beliefs, and intentions are not merely brain events. They are manifestations of the individual mind interacting with the universal mind. This implies that the reality we experience is, to a large extent, a projection of our own mind. By changing our mind, we can change our reality. This is the basis for practices like visualization, affirmations, and the power of positive thinking. But Hermeticism takes this to a much deeper level, the understanding of our inherent unity with cosmic consciousness. If everything is mind, then separation is an illusion. I am, you are, and the universe is all facets of a single mental reality. Their second principle is the principle of correspondence. The Emerald Tablet summarizes it in the immortal phrase, as above, so below, as below, so above. This principle is the key to unraveling mysteries across all planes. It posits that there is harmony, an analogy between the different planes of existence. What happens in the macrocosm, the universe, the cosmos, is reflected in the microcosm, the human being, an atom. What happens in the spiritual plane is reflected in the mental plane, and from the mental to the physical. This is why Hermetic astrology studied celestial movements to understand the human psyche, or why alchemy sought to transform lead into gold in the laboratory as a correspondence to the transmutation of the impure soul into a pure soul. This principle allows us to use knowledge of one plane to understand another. Studying the structure of an atom can provide insights into the structure of a solar system. Observing patterns in nature can help us understand patterns in human behavior. It is the basis of all analogical science and the art of symbolic interpretation in esoteric traditions. Nothing is isolated. Everything is interconnected by patterns that repeat across different scales. The third principle is the principle of vibration. It declares, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. In the 19th century, science began to confirm what Hermeticists had known for millennia. Everything in the universe is in constant motion, in constant vibration. From subatomic particles vibrating at incredible speeds to planets orbiting stars, everything is energy in different vibrational states. The difference between a stone, a plant, an animal, and a thought is simply the difference in the frequency of their vibration. The higher the vibrational frequency, the more subtle and spiritual the manifestation. The lower the frequency, the denser and material. This principle explains how different planes of existence coexist. They are simply different ranges of vibrational frequency. The physical plane vibrates in one frequency range, the mental plane in another, the spiritual plane in yet another, and so on. Mastering this principle means learning to control one's own vibrations, emotional, mental, and even physical, to attract or repel experiences, people, and circumstances that vibrate at corresponding frequencies. It is the basis behind concepts like the law of attraction, though Hermeticism explains it with far greater depth and nuance than modern simplifications, and the ability to raise one's frequency to connect with higher planes of consciousness. The fourth principle is the principle of polarity. It states, everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. This fascinating principle reveals the dualistic nature of the manifested universe. Hot and cold are not different things. They are merely different degrees of the same thing. Temperature, light and darkness are poles of the same scale. Luminous intensity, love and hate, fear and courage, good and evil, all are manifestations of the same fundamental energy, just at opposite poles. Understanding polarity gives us the power to transmute one mental state into another. If I am feeling fear, one pole, I can focus on the opposite pole, courage, and through the force of will and the application of other principles like mentalism and vibration, raise my frequency to approach the desired pole. This principle teaches that opposites are complementary, not mutually exclusive. They exist on the same spectrum. It is the basis of the idea that within every difficulty lies an opportunity, and within every shadow there is a light waiting to be found. The fifth principle is the principle of rhythm. It states, everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The pendulum's swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. This principle describes the cyclic and oscillatory movement in all things. Life is a series of cycles, day and night, seasons, tides, birth and death, the rise and fall of civilizations, emotional highs and lows. Nothing remains static. There is always a pendular movement between poles. At first glance, this principle may seem discouraging, implying that after a peak, a valley inevitably follows. However, Hermeticism teaches the art of polarization and transmutation to counterbalance rhythm itself. While we cannot eliminate the rhythm of the universe, we can learn not to be swept away by it unconsciously. We can polarize ourselves toward the desired pole and use the force of will to minimize the swing toward the undesired pole, elevating ourselves, so to speak, above the grosser movement of the pendulum. This is the practice of equanimity, emotional mastery, and resilience in the face of life's cycles. The Drix principle is the principle of cause and effect. It states, every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause, everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for a law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. This is the principle that governs the order of the universe. Nothing happens by chance. Every event, every circumstance is the result of a prior cause. What seems like luck or chance is merely the operation of laws we do not yet fully understand. This principle is not fatalism. On the contrary, by understanding that we are both effects of causes that preceded us and causes of effects to come, we gain power. We can become conscious operators of the law, choosing to create the causes we desire to produce the effects we seek. While the ordinary person is an effect of the winds of life, the Hermetic adept becomes a cause, navigating the currents with purpose and intention. This principle is closely related to karma in other traditions, but in Hermeticism, the emphasis is on conscious application and mastery of causality. The seventh principle is the principle of gender. It states, gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. This principle goes far beyond physical sexual distinction. Gender here refers to the fundamental creative principles, the masculine, active, projective, giving, electric, and the feminine, receptive, nurturing, absorbing, magnetic. These two principles are present in everything in nature and on all planes. In the mind, we have the masculine aspect of will and reason, projective, and the feminine aspect of imagination and intuition, receptive. In creation, the creative, impulse, masculine meets matter or potential space, feminine to manifest. Harmony between these two principles is essential for creation and integration. Mastering this principle involves recognizing and balancing the masculine and feminine energies within oneself, as well as understanding how they interact in the universe to generate, create, and regenerate. Understanding these 7 principles is the first step. The Hermetic practice, the path to unveiling the hidden mysteries, lies in living these principles, applying them actively in daily life. But how does this manifest? One of the central practices is meditation and contemplation. It is not just about emptying the mind, but filling it with deep contemplation of universal laws. Meditating on the principle of mentalism, for example, may involve visualizing the universal mind, reflecting on how your own thoughts create your reality, or practicing affirmations of your connection to the mind of the all. Meditating on correspondence might involve observing nature and seeking patterns that repeat across different levels, or contemplating the relationship between your inner states and external circumstances. It is an intellectual and intuitive dive into the laws of existence. Alchemy, in the Hermetic context, is fundamentally spiritual alchemy. While physical alchemy, the quest to transmute metals and find the elixir of life, existed, it was often a metaphor or an external application of a much deeper internal process. The great work of Hermetic alchemy is the transmutation of lead, the lower, dense, impure, unconscious ego, into gold, the higher self, pure, enlightened, conscious. Alchemical processes like solve et coagula, dissolve and coagulate, represent stages of inner transformation, dissolving the old structures of personality, limiting beliefs and attachments, solve, and coagulating or rebuilding a new, more refined being aligned with the higher self, coagula. The alchemist's laboratory is their own soul, mind and body. The furnace is discipline and will. The raw material is life's experiences, and the fire is the flame of consciousness and intention. Hermetic astrology differs from popular astrology. It is not just about predicting the future based on zodiac signs, but understanding cosmic influences as reflections of the macrocosm in the human microcosm. Principle of correspondence. Planets, signs, and astrological houses are seen as archetypes and energies that shape personality and life. Experiences. Studying one's natal chart is an act of self-knowledge, understanding the energies you were born to work with, transmute, and harmonize. It is not determinism, but an understanding of tendencies and potentials. The Hermetic adept uses astrology to understand the when and how of cosmic energies, to align their actions with the universal flow rather than against it. Theurgy is another practice associated with Hermeticism, though more advanced and often reserved for initiatory circles. Theurgy, from the Greek theos, on as God, and ergon, work, is the divine work, or the practice of invoking and interacting with divine or spiritual entities, forces, to achieve union with the divine. Henosis. Unlike goetia, black or coercive, magic, theurgy seeks to elevate the soul, purify it, and align it with higher planes of existence. It involves rituals, invocations, purifications, and the pursuit of enlightenment through communion with the divine. It's a practice that requires great purity of intention and deep knowledge of spiritual planes and their hierarchies, always under the aegis of Hermetic principles and the pursuit of universal wisdom and love. The counter-study of symbols and archetypes is vital. The emerald tablet is replete with symbolism: sun, moon, earth, wind, lead, gold. The corpus hermeticum speaks of nous, the divine mind; psyche, the soul; pneuma, the spirit. The tarot, though of uncertain origin, is often studied through a Hermetic lens, seeing its arcana as symbolic representations of universal principles and the stages of the soul's journey. Symbols are not just images, they are keys that unlock layers of meaning and wisdom, communicating profound truths that linear language cannot fully express. Meditating on Hermetic symbols is a way to access the unconscious and connect with universal archetypal energies. The Sei, daily application of the principles, is perhaps the most important practice. It is not enough to memorize The Kybalion. If you do not live its teachings, if the all is mind, how do you use your mind to create your reality? If everything vibrates, how do you raise your vibration when you feel down? If everything has poles, how do you transmute negative emotions into positive ones? If there is rhythm, how do you stay centered during life's highs and lows? If cause and effect govern, what causes are you planting today to reap the desired effects tomorrow? If there is gender in everything, how do you balance your masculine and feminine energies? Hermeticism is not just knowledge, it is practical application. It is philosophy embodied in everyday life. Why has Hermeticism been considered a cult throughout history? Part of this is due to the persecution of knowledge deemed heretical by religious orthodoxy in different eras. Part is due to the esoteric nature of knowledge transmission from master to disciple in closed circles of trust. But the deeper reason may be that true Hermetic wisdom can only be understood through direct experience and inner transformation. You can read about the principles, but you will only truly understand them when you apply them and witness their effects in your own life and the universe. This understanding is a personal revelation, an initiation that happens from within. The influence of Hermeticism on Western civilization is immense, though often underestimated or ignored by the mainstream. During the Renaissance, the rediscovery of the corpus hermeticum had a profound impact on philosophers, artists, and scientists, driving the study of nature and humanity's place in the cosmos. Alchemy flourished, not only as a proto-science, but as a spiritual quest. Jewish Kabbalah, Rosicrucianism, Freemasonry, Theosophy, and many other later esoteric traditions absorbed and reinterpreted Hermetic concepts. Modern science itself, in its roots, shared ground with the natural philosophy that Hermeticism helped cultivate. Though science eventually focused solely on the material aspect of reality, leaving the study of the mental and spiritual planes to occultism. Today, in the 21st century, why does Hermeticism still resonate with us? In a fragmented, skeptical world, often devoid of a sense of deep meaning, Hermeticism offers a unified vision of reality. It reconciles science and spirituality, principle of correspondence, recognizes the power of the mind in creating reality, principle of mentalism, and provides practical tools to navigate life's challenges, principles of polarity, rhythm, cause, and effect. It reminds us that we are not passive victims of circumstances, but active co-creators of our destiny, capable of transmuting the lead of our limitations into the gold of our unlimited potential. The Hermetic path is a journey of return to the source, to the mind of the all, recognizing our own inherent divinity. It is a path that requires discipline, study, honest self-observation, and above all, practice. It is not a shortcut to magical powers, though knowledge of universal laws can manifest results that seem magical to the uninitiated. It is a path to mastery of the self, to wisdom and enlightenment. Diving into the hidden mysteries of Hermeticism is to open doors to a radically different understanding of yourself and the universe. It is to realize that the laws governing the rise and fall of civilizations are the same as those governing your moods. It is to understand that the energy moving the stars is the same that flows in your veins. It is to awaken to the consciousness that you are a microcosm reflecting the macrocosm, a universe in miniature, capable of consciously operating the laws that govern it. The Emerald Tablet, in its mystical concision, encapsulates this truth. Its phrases like, "You shall separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the dense, gently with great skill," speak of the inner alchemical process of purification and refinement of the soul. It ascends from the earth to the heavens and, descends again to the earth and receives the strength of things above and below, describes the journey of consciousness that rises to spiritual planes to bring wisdom and power back to the physical plane. Thus you shall have the glory of the whole world points to the state of enlightenment and mastery that comes from integrating and applying these laws. All obscurity will flee from you, promises the dissipation of ignorance and suffering, and the final assertion that the tablet is the father of all perfection of the whole world, and the summary of the work of the Son reinforces its nature as the key to the great work of creation and self-creation. Studying and practicing Hermeticism is a lifelong commitment. It is a continuous journey of learning, error, adjustment, and growth. It requires humility to recognize the vastness of the unknown and courage to face one's own shadows and illusions, the lead that must be transmuted. It requires patience, as the great work does not happen overnight. But the reward is invaluable. A deeper understanding of reality, a stronger connection with the divine, and the ability to live a life with greater purpose, wisdom, and efficacy. The hidden mysteries of Hermeticism are not secrets guarded by a select few to be denied to the rest of humanity. They are universal truths, hidden in plain sight, but veiled by our own ignorance, fear, and focus on the superficial appearances of reality. The key to unveiling them lies not in sealed esoteric texts, though these help to guide, but in the consciousness of the seeker, in their willingness to look within and without with eyes of wisdom, seeking correspondences, feeling vibrations, navigating rhythms, balancing poles, choosing causes, and recognizing the mind that is in everything. Hermetic practice is, in essence, the pursuit of gnosis, not just intellectual knowledge, but experiential and transformative knowledge. It is the pursuit of knowing thyself, for in self-knowledge lies the knowledge of the universe and the divine. If you feel compelled to explore these mysteries, the first step is to study the sources, reflect deeply on the principles, and most importantly, begin applying them in your own life. Observe how the principle of cause and effect manifests in your decisions. Feel how the principle of vibration affects your emotional state. See how the principle of polarity is present in the dualities you face. Become an experimenter of ancient wisdom. The Hermetic path does not promise instant magical powers or easy solutions to life's problems. It offers something far more valuable, the ability to understand the fabric of reality and work with universal laws rather than against them. It invites you to become an artist of your own existence, using cosmic laws as your tools and your consciousness as your canvas. The path is challenging but profoundly rewarding, leading the seeker back to their divine essence, to their connection with the all. If this exploration of the hidden mysteries of Hermeticism, its revelations about the nature of reality, and its practices of inner transmutation has resonated with you, if it has awakened your curiosity and desire to deepen your knowledge of these ancient wisdom traditions, then know that this journey is only beginning. There is much more to unveil, layers of meaning to explore, and practices to incorporate. Continuing to learn about occultism, spirituality, and esoteric philosophies is a path of continuous growth. If you found this dive helpful and enlightening, please leave a like to let me know this type of content is relevant to you. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel to not miss the upcoming videos, where we will continue to unveil other mysteries and explore different spiritual and occult paths. Share this video with someone you know who is also seeking these answers, someone who is on the journey of self-discovery and consciousness expansion. Your interaction helps bring this wisdom to more seekers. Thank you so much for watching, and may the light of Hermetic wisdom illuminate your path.